Nothing can better sell a conflict than a well-made fight scene. Here's 14 of them, and what makes them unique. Before we continue, let me tell you about SkillShare, which is a platform that has hundreds of classes about animation, drawing, illustration, and several other creative fields. I've been looking for good courses that will teach me how to make 2D background animations, and that's how I came across this course on SkillShare. It was created by the well-known artist Tonico Pantoa, who has worked on a number of well-known shows, including Dragon 3. He will teach you all the techniques necessary for you to create the world your character will inhabit by creating scenery, creating sets, and creating realistic backgrounds, which will boost your career and provide you with new opportunities. You can also find many other related courses on the Skillshare platform, and the first 1,000 to click the link in the description will get 1 month free trial of Skillshare Premium membership. Alright, now back to the video. Hitori no Hita, The Outcast 3, Wang vs Masked Trio, Studio Howliners. Kicking it off with a banger. Chinese studio Howliners comes at us with one of the best new season starts in recent history for their show, The Outcast. The second episode specifically starts with an epic chase scene that climaxes with an all-out brawl, beginning with a simple display of precisely animated martial arts that very quickly escalates into the anime staple of incrementally revealed abilities. This beautiful spectacle is a perfect example of pacing and technical execution, showing us exactly how much more impactful a well-planned-out choreography will make any given combat scene. The creative use of set design and environments only serves to enhance the choreography further, but to also showcase the power escalation through collateral damage, all accompanied with a beautiful instrumental score with some traditional Chinese strings sprinkled in there for good measure. This fight was a massive step up to the whole series in terms of quality and remains one of its most iconic. Fog Hill of the Five Elements, Xuan vs Final Form Wrath, Studio Samsara. Directed by Lin Han. Fog Hill of the Five Elements already distinguishes itself by its unique art direction and visual style, inspired by traditional Chinese paintings where visual references to principles like shang shui can very easily be distinguished. The striking visual style with the visible brush line work gives the animation a more feral look, which adds to how dynamic every snapshot of this fight scene feels, while still being worthy of being a desktop wallpaper. The incredibly smooth camera works only speaks to immaculate storyboarding. It's only interrupted with the occasional impact frames, which, although only visible for a split second, still deserve to be celebrated. Visually, they draw inspiration from traditional Chinese ink paintings. The entire package is tied together with the most satisfying sound design, accentuating the sheer scale of this climactic clash. It's a beautiful spectacle for what is the climax of this ONA, with visuals that are all the more unique, but very fitting considering the story itself takes inspiration from ancient Chinese hero stories. It feels like you are reading through an animated storybook, complete with a lesson on human nature and the consequences of greed, in line with classical philosophical thought exercises, with a modern twist. Sword of the Stranger, Loulang vs Nameless, Studio Bones. The perfect way to wrap up an equally beautiful movie. It's another very well animated and choreographed fight, with the animation directed by Megumi Endo, and it was nothing short of an amazing climax and satisfying conclusion. The cinematography heavily relied on the use of Dutch angles, emphasizing the dynamic movements presented flawlessly by the animation team as the fight flows seamlessly between multiple environments. The more hopeful accompanying score showcases how far Loulang has come since the beginning of his journey, and the battle ends in a whole 40 seconds of melancholic silence. The beauty of this fight lies in its simplicity and precise execution. It does take inspiration from shakier camera work, more associated with Western movies, as traditional martial arts media usually prefers steadier cameras and has a heavier emphasis on performance and showmanship. The marriage of both better transmits the pure desperation and high stakes of this fight. One Piece, Luffy and Yamato vs Kaido, Toei Animation. Directed by Yusuke Suzuki, with credits to the animation going to iconic Shuichi Ito. This battle against one of the four Embers of the Sea has him facing his own kin in a clash of principles, as Yamato is seeking to find freedom after the fabled meeting with our protagonist, Luffy. Not shy from drawing visual reference from traditional Japanese aesthetics, Toei Animation also drew from classic 90s and early 2000s sound design with stylish and stylized sound effects for a highly impactful show of mass destruction, worthy of this long climactic showdown between titans of the series. The use of stylized, shaky, colored line work within the traditionally painted and 2D animated environments magnifies the sheer scale of this clash, not free from signature One Piece smear frames that makes every action feel as impactful visually as it is narratively. The beauty of a long-running series that is One Piece is the clear improvement in the manner long-due emotional conclusions are represented on the small screen. And keeping with the early 2000s sound design gives both a sense of nostalgia and familiarity, and its stylized nature fits perfectly with the vibrant and colorful world of One Piece. Gon vs. Hisoka rematch. Hunter x Hunter 2011 Studio Madhouse. This highly anticipated matchup and re-encounter between protagonist Gon and the terrifying Hisoka is a great example of a satisfying payoff after a very long setup. Narratively, in an underdog trying to overcome unsurpassable odds, the climax and emotional payoff of the fight comes in Gon managing to land a single punch on his opponent. This one frame was set up for an entire arc, and it was done justice by brilliantly using a dynamic camera exclusively focused on following Gon's movements, fidgeting around an immovable opponent. This clever use of the camera, along with the subtle switch between lapses of music and heavy silence, perfectly showcases the disparity and despair, further pushing the emotional impact and heft of this fight. Compared to the 1999 version, which in itself is a beautifully animated piece, it relies on the 90s trope of utilizing dialogue and cuts to the audience in order to break down as well as emphasize the strategy and emotional stakes of the fight. The 2011 version is a lot more comfortable in being self-contained, leading to a smoother experience. Which one do you prefer? Let us know in the comments below. Combat Gods 2 Jhanzou. The sequel to Combat Gods. Would have guessed. This indie animated project takes the genre of stick figure animation, which is normally reserved for parody, and elevates it to a narratively fulfilling experience. The immensely satisfying and bass-heavy sound design is combined with immaculately rendered visual effects that send us on a 15-minute journey to Wonderland, fully produced down to voice acting.
Lucky you. You would have lost your head.
The smooth stick figure fights are enhanced with traditionally animated frames and sequences, adding to the intensity of it all. It even includes the occasional facial acting for both the hilarious and surprisingly emotional moments. This whole project is very effective in what it's trying to do, and it's an elevation to a parody medium that is fully worth your time. Dragon Ball Super Broly, the final battle between Gogeta and Broly, by Toei Animation. Directed by Tetsuya Nagamine, this fight is everything we love about Dragon Ball, taking us on a nostalgia-fueled trip as the fight slowly escalates into the cosmic power levels Dragon Ball is at nowadays. With textured line work and sound design inspired from the Dragon Ball Z era, it does not fail to deliver on the massive scale destruction that comes with the clash of cosmic forces, a wonderfully colorful light show that at points becomes reality-shattering, complemented perfectly by Norihiko Sumitomo's incredible soundtrack. It's an overall colorful, feels-good, satisfying Dragon Ball experience. It isn't afraid from using vibrant colors and exaggerated, stretched and squashed anatomy, as is the classic with fight scenes. In line with what this show taught us, not every fight scene needs emotional stakes. Sometimes it's just about the spectacle, as long as it's well presented. Cowboy Bebop, the movie. Spike vs. Vincent, Studio Bones. On an even more grounded scale, Spike vs. Vincent is a movie-long struggle of Spike learning more about himself through facing a personality not very different from his own. So naturally, the conflict takes us on a movie-long journey of self-discovery, inner conflict, and explosive action. The final conflict is completely color-graded in warm oranges and reds, helping to increase the intensity, but to also showcase the high narrative stakes involved. Meanwhile, the characters are kept in a muted brown color palette, it makes them look overall cooler compared to the rest of the scene, helping them stand out without having to massively switch up the values or hues. Cowboy Bebop has always been good at releasing the catharsis valve, and this fight is no different. One Punch Man, Saitama vs Genos, Studio Madhouse. The first half of the 2010s marks a transition period for Japanese animation, giving rise to countless modern classics, among them One Punch Man. This brawl between Genos and Saitama, as the latter agreed to make the former his disciple, is a simple yet effective display of this studio's prowess. The fight is accompanied with a techno score by Makoto Miyazaki, subtly enhanced with choir vocals that perfectly suits Genos' identity. A selfless android on a path of vengeance stuck in a fight where he struggles to find purpose while failing to keep up with an unsurpassable foe. This fight uses the principle of posing within a choreography to showcase the stylistic difference between the two combatants. One is taking it significantly more seriously than the other, and they are very easily distinguishable through shape and body language. The stylish posing naturally leads to having a more visually appealing choreography. These key poses, as they are referred to, also give the multitude of smear frames a satisfying snapshot to land on for the viewer. The climax and the resolution of the fight are both represented in the span of a single illustrated frame, followed by a blank. This serves to ingrain the final moments of this battle in one's memory. Who can forget that single frame that says death, followed by that iconic red glove? Attack on Titan, Levi vs Kenny, Wit Studio. This series is no stranger to brutality, and neither is Levi. In this fight, the Survey Corps sees its plans foiled by a ghost from Levi's past, and has him fight the odds by both brains and brawn. As is iconic for the series, the focused yet dynamic use of the camera only following the movements of a single character at a time is what helps to bring home the gut-wrenching immersion of a high-speed, high-impact gliding. The action cleverly plays with faster and slower motion shots for a beautifully paced spectacle. This fight doesn't shy away from always raising the stakes down to character deaths, and it's guaranteed to be an unforgettable experience. Even when the scale is reduced from oversized titans to human conflict, Levi shows us why his reputation is earned. Even though Attack on Titan shies away from stylized impact frames and the overuse of smear frames, it achieves the same level of satisfaction by exaggerating one of the principles of animation, which is anticipation. Through the use of beautifully composed frames, you get a similar level of kinetic impact, and it keeps the overall shot a lot more grounded. It has you sensing the physical impact and struggle of every action. Fullmetal Alchemist, Brotherhood, King Bradley vs Scar, Studio Bones. Fullmetal Alchemist isn't a shonen most known for its fight scenes, although it has some of the most memorable scenes in anime history. Fullmetal Alchemist has always put characters and the overall narrative first. And not to say the action is lacking in any way, and this scene is a perfect example of using a fight as a narrative device that perfectly concludes characters and story arcs. The animation is incredible. Instead of using impact frames, it gives you time to breathe by using fast sequences, interrupted with either dialogue or shots that are momentarily slowed down to emphasize certain actions. And when it's backed up with Akira Senju's epic soundtrack, you know you will be in for a great time. Chainsaw Man, Denji vs Bad Devil, Studio Mappa. To conclude this list, we are going to give you a fight that perfectly combines everything we have discussed so far in this video to create the most satisfying eye candy. The overall fast-paced battle includes a single flashback. It serves to give emotional value to a fight that doesn't really have the highest stakes, at least comparatively. This single addition first gives the viewer room to catch a breath before being thrusted mid-action, as well as the narrative significance regardless of being a relatively minor battle. It flawlessly combines a 3D model of Denji with traditionally animated shots, keeping up the pace without losing in aesthetic. It doesn't rely as much on anticipation shots, and would rather linger on heavy impact to showcase the sheer amount of damage dealt along with bombastic, heavy bass sound design. And it all comes together thanks to a flawless shot composition and color manipulation. This scene is concluded with the main theme of the show, a mix of techno music and electric guitar, and the last frame makes it the fight to remember. We hope you enjoyed our list for some of the best 2D animated fight scenes, and even better, learn something on how to improve your own. Let us know what your favorites are in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to not miss out on any future list. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you soon. Take care.